Ladies and gentlemen, what a powerful speech from a powerful Queenslander. Somehow Cindy and her family have managed to push on through the most incredible grief and fight for change. A change to the attitude that the youth crime crisis is a media beat-up. A change to the laws which Labor voted to weaken nearly a decade ago. A change of government so we can have a fresh start for Queensland. While Cindy's story is emblematic of the failures of this government, she's not the only victim suffering. And there are four big crises in this state: youth crime, health, housing, cost of living. And we have met thousands of Queenslanders who are suffering because of the failures of the government. These are the issues that drive me, they're the issues that drive my team. And in just 6 days, Queenslanders will have to answer the question, after 10 years of this government, are things better or worse when it comes to youth crime and health and housing and cost of living? And who's got the right plan for Queensland's future? And there is a secondary consideration, and that is, do Queenslanders want to wake up 1 week from today to a re-elected Miles Labor government? A government that will then have been in power for 4 consecutive terms and will have governed in this state for nearly 35 of the last 40 years by the end of that term. It is time for change. Queenslanders deserve a fresh start, and this can only occur because of a team with a plan to deal with those crises. Too often we've seen the government make short-term announcements that they haven't followed through, rather than looking at dealing with those big 4 challenges and dealing with the structural underpinning problems that Queenslanders are facing. I want to start with the housing crisis. It's been created because of failures of this government, because of falling lot approvals, a housing investment fund that hasn't built a single new home that a Queenslander is living in 3 years. 2 years ago, the state government accepted that the problem lay at their feet and they called a housing summit. We heard about granny flats, university accommodation, quicker planning approvals. Things have got worse. The latest quarter for home construction is the worst our state has seen in over a decade. Constant changes to regulation and taxation. It's left builders reluctant to invest. It's left Queenslanders unable to be able to enter the market. And it means that productivity continues to stall. Our plan will unlock supply. We will be the first government in a generation to abolish a tax. Young Queenslanders buying or building their first brand new home will not pay 1 cent of stamp duty. A $2 billion infrastructure investment fund working with councils to unlock more supply. Every single cent of the housing investment fund will go to delivering new social housing. A partnership with the faith-based sector to deliver 10,000 new community homes. Reviewing local planning schemes, making sure that infrastructure plan is embedded with it to protect your lifestyle while we meet growth in the future. A productivity commission re-established, and its first order of business will be to review the building industry. There will be a seat at the table for industry, for people who invest, for unions, but not the CFMEU. Let me turn to the second crisis the state is buckling under, and that is the cost of living crisis, created because the government didn't maintain its power plants, because youth crime has been running out of control, because the government has blown out every major project it has done to the form of tens of billions of dollars. Now, our plan will ensure immediate relief through rebates and cheaper fares, but we'll also address those underlying systemic causes. It starts with stopping Labor's patient tax. a tax that is due to start on the 1st of July. We have a lower tax guarantee, and it involves the removal of 2 taxes. A focus on crime and disaster mitigation, that lowers insurance premiums. We'll increase housing supply and stop that feeding frenzy at the bottom end of the market. A maintenance guarantee to keep our electricity plants alive, and that will be through those shareholding ministers having transparency. So the good news for our friends at the front is not only will those assets not be sold, they'll actually be maintained, and the staff working in them won't be in harm's way, and Queenslanders won't pay more for electricity. And of course, a plan for more manageable, affordable pumped hydro, and not the $24 billion wrecking ball that the Deputy alluded to before. The Pioneer Burdekin pumped hydro scheme is a thought bubble that would cruel Queenslanders' ability to keep the lights on. I turn to the Queensland health crisis created by a government that has allowed ambulance ramping to swell, wait lists to balloon and the closure of regional maternity services. 12 months ago, the government said that, as of today, ambulance ramping would be below 28%. It remains at 45% for the last 6 months. That's the highest figure ever recorded in any Australian state or territory. It keeps getting worse. They have stopped listening to frontline staff, and the result is that attrition rates have hit record levels. Our plan will deliver health metrics and targets, real-time health data within 100 days of office, and a promise to get ambulance ramping below 30% in the term. Better triaging in EDs, including specialist mental health nurses. 7-day discharges, so patients aren't kept waiting to leave hospital when they're ready. Frontline staff on health boards. For the first time, every single health and hospital network will have at least one frontline clinician who works within that health and hospital network for Queensland Health sitting on that board. That's putting doctors and nurses back in charge. Nine more CT and 6 new MRI machines located in what the government currently calls satellite hospitals, as well as our regional health facilities. We're going to educate the next generation of health workers, a new Queensland Academy of Health Services in Rockhampton. More doctors and nurses and paramedics by continuing to recruit, but also dealing with those attrition rates. Reinstating maternity services by reopening Billawheeler and Cooktown Hospital maternity wards. Step up, step down mental health services, including putting that mental health levy to good use, and we're going to have a dedicated youth facility in central Queensland. And new hospital beds, completing the existing hospital build and expansion program, but also freeing up capacity, as we've explained. But it's the crime crisis where I want to focus today. We owe this to Cindy and the other 289,657 victims of crime in the last 12 months in this state, more than any other Australian state or territory, despite our population being much smaller than Victoria and New South Wales. It's a topic this government hasn't wanted to speak about. The entire campaign, a crisis created by their decision to weaken the youth justice laws and boast about it when they came to office nearly a decade ago. Our plan will address 3 key areas: stronger laws, gold standard early intervention, and rehabilitation with purpose. So let's go through what change would look like on Saturday if Queenslanders vote for change. Adult crime, adult time. Yeah. It's about protecting our community, minimum mandatories for murder, lifting those sentencing thresholds for manslaughter, unlawful wounding, theft of car, breaking into houses. It's a promise I made Victor sitting at his kitchen table. And mate, by the end of the year, it will be law if Queenslanders vote for change. We are going to remove detention as a last resort so that hardcore repeat offenders will experience justice. We will rewrite the Youth Justice Act. Within the sentencing provisions, the rights of the victim will come ahead of the rights of the offender. Getting serious on sentencing. Youth offenders' full history should be considered by the court in sentencing. Why should someone's slate be wiped clean when they turn 18 if they've wiped the safety from a dozen Queensland families? More police on the beat through retention and attraction. Safer families, safer communities policy to boost DV Connect helpline. 3 new Hope hubs and GPS trackers for repeat offenders. Victim advocacy service for all victims of crime. Voice for victims asked for it. And we listened and we'll deliver it. Faster justice to bolster our courts to deal with the mountain of cases delayed by Labor's DNA forensic lab debacle. A boost to the prosecution strength and a new district court judge for Townsville. A public child sex offender register requested by Bruce and Denise Morecambe over a decade ago. An inquiry into the child protection system. 4 crime prevention schools to prevent young people falling into crime. We've seen the good work of Men of Business on the Gold Coast. We're going to partner with them to expand their program to years 7 to 10. We're going to have one here in Ipswich. There'll be one in Townsville and another announcement to follow. Our Secure Communities Partnership Program grants to allow businesses to upgrade safety and help prevent crime before it occurs. We're going to reform the child safety and residential care systems to prevent vulnerable young people getting into crime in the first place. This is the most and the largest expenditure part of this policy because it deals with kids before they become criminals. It offers hope and dignity and discipline and structure and love. It's been backed by industry. Our community-led gold standard early intervention programs to intervene early and intercept. We're going to do more of what works and bring the best to this state to turn young kids around. 9 regional reset programs to intervene and reset young lives before they fall into crime. 1 to 3 week placements, free from mobile phones, the distraction of their environment. We've got to reset their lives and get them to interact in society. 2 specialist youth justice schools for out-of-control kids to keep them on the straight and narrow. They provide extra supervision, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's the final chance to improve their behaviour before it's too late. We'll put 1 in Cairns and 1 in the southeast. Our circuit breaker sentencing to provide a sentencing alternative to detention, giving courts another tool to rehabilitate and break the cycle of crime for youth offenders by sending them to a secure, remote facility. It'll help them turn their lives around. Stints of 3 to 6 months. It'll be remote. It will remove them from their bad influence, but it'll give them education and structure. It's another option for our courts instead of sending young offenders back out into the community. And our Staying on Track program to rehabilitate kids after detention and stop them reoffending. Under Labor, kids get released on Friday and they're back on Monday. They have a 72-hour plan, which even half those kids don't even get. We're proposing and will implement, if elected, a 12-month plan, 6 months intensive, starting when the young person is in detention, to give them every chance of not being part of that 90% repeat offender rate. It's a $1 billion package. It's targeted at every aspect, from intercepting at the beginning of a life of crime through to those hardcore repeat offenders. It's a mixture of compassion and discipline. I highlight this total cost for a reason. It's a fully funded plan to deal with the crime crisis. Fully funded. It's around 2/3 of the cost of the Premier's unfunded borrowing to become a tuck shop convener. Elections are about choices, and Queenslanders can vote for a fresh LNP team promising to deal with bullies and break-enters, or a chaotic Labor Party promising to borrow for bolognese and burgers. That's the choice at this election. The youth crime crisis remains front and centre in Queensland's minds, and we won't allow the Labor Party to try to airbrush this as the defining issue of this election. And ladies and gentlemen, this brings me to the final part of our plan to combat the youth crime crisis. Today I can announce detention with purpose. It's time to shift the focus of youth detention from young criminals dictating the rules to a system that focuses on discipline, respect and rehabilitation. We will do this by ensuring consequences for actions are at the centre of our youth detention system. This policy is not about money. It is about demonstrating a new way. It is about showing kids we will provide the structure to turn their lives around. It's showing staff they have a government that has their back. And it's showing victims of crime we have a plan to address every level of the Queensland youth crime crisis. There are 3 pillars of detention with purpose. 1, education will be compulsory. Youth offenders will no longer be able to opt out of school. 2, violence against staff will not be tolerated. There will be minimum isolation periods imposed for youth who commit assault in detention. And 3, clear consequences for actions with a new behavioural management program that builds privileges for good behaviour and removes privileges like televisions in their bedroom for bad behaviour. Under our plan, we will make sure the youth offenders are doing something productive for themselves. Don't want to go to class today? Well, too bad, you are going. If the state is taking over the responsibility of their care, we must ensure we use their time to become better people, not better criminals. The state government's own figures, which only came to light because of a question on notice from the LNP, shows that the average young offender in youth detention receives less than 3 hours schooling per day. If these young people are to be integrated back into the community, we need to give them every chance to lift their ability to read and write. We owe it to them after a lifetime of neglect. We also owe it to them to teach consequences for actions. It will shock Queenslanders to learn if a youth offender assaults a prison officer, there is no minimum isolation period. In fact, staff have to return them to their peers immediately once they calm down. This is often after several minutes. We have spoken to many frontline youth justice staff who tell us young offenders can even strike them on the way back to being returned from isolation because they know the consequence doesn't fit the punishment. We will change that. The lack of consequences are bad enough, but the impact on the officers is terrible. Morale is at rock bottom. It is driving good people to leave a noble profession. We will consult with stakeholders, including the department, frontline staff, behavioural experts and police, to determine what the minimum period of isolation should be. But one thing's for certain, a few minutes to cool down after assaulting someone doing their job is not on and will change. We wouldn't accept it for our kids, and we shouldn't accept it for these kids in care of the state. Queensland parents know children need a guiding hand. They need boundaries, they need consequences. These children are no different. We will initiate a new behavioural management program that rewards good behaviour and provides a consequence for bad behaviour. This will instil discipline into these centres where frontline staff tell us access to a television in a young person's room is almost never denied, despite the severity of the behaviour, because it is considered a human right. We have a different attitude. Access to food is a human right. Access to a shelter is a human right. Access to education is a human right. Access to a television is not, and it's a privilege, and it should be earned with good behaviour and reward for good behaviour. The youth justice system needs a fresh start. We cannot continue with the same set of policies and programs that have got us into the situation we are in now. Over the course of this campaign, and indeed the last 4 years, we have outlined a comprehensive suite of policies to deal with the youth crime crisis at every level. Stronger laws, early intervention, and keeping them on the right track. This is the plan that will deliver now and into the future. Friends, as we head into the final week of this campaign, we believe, and Queensland believes, it's time for change. But if that's the case, they need to vote for change. If Labor is re-elected, nothing will change. What would it mean for Queenslanders? Well, it means the same people who created the cost of living crisis would still be in charge. It means the same people who created the housing crisis would still be in charge. It means the same people who created the health crisis would be in charge. And it means the same people who created the youth crime crisis would still be in charge. And we can't accept that. We must spend every hour of every day leading up to the election taking our plans to every Queenslander, showing them we can deliver the change they need. This election will be so tough. History shows us that. But we must win. We owe it to those who have lost loved ones, waiting for health care, and the staff bravely holding that system together. We owe it to the young couple who don't believe they'll ever own a home, or the vulnerable Queenslander sleeping rough. We owe it to the families shuffling bills around their kitchen table, wondering which one that they can delay paying so they can feed their kids. And we owe it to Cindy and to those brave Queenslanders who are scared in their home. We have the team to deliver the change that Queensland needs. We are united, we are focused, we are hungry to deliver the change. In just 6 days, we are able to show Queenslanders there is a better way. A state where we restore safety where you live, health services when you need them, a place to call home, respect for your money, a government that works for you. I'm asking Queenslanders, wherever they live, whatever they do, however they've voted before, to vote for hope over fear, to vote for change, to vote for a fresh start for Queensland. Thank you very much.
Take my hand.